Awesome. And I heard you guys kind of, razzing about the first responders, but I got to tell you, I think you guys are first responders when it comes to, power outages, when it comes to things need to be fixed in your city. You guys are there as well. So I put you up there in the same category as police and firefighter, right? So for me, like I said, I'm excited because, the city of Tumwater invested in you and your family. So that's the exciting part, right? They saw the value of our service and saw the value of being able to help you and your families that they invested time and they invested money into this for both you and your families, right? I feel it's important to kind of tell you how we got here. This is our founder, Luis Rivera. Luis is a PT by trade. He actually worked at Arizona State and in Major League Baseball, helping college and pro athletes heal. That's what he always known how to do his entire career. Fast forward 10 years, he actually moved to Milwaukee where he wanted to start a family. And at that point, he actually started working with the Milwaukee Fire Department and their injuries. And he was trying to figure out why firefighters, when they got hurt, were taking so long to get back to work, but professional athletes got back in the field really quick, right? So it's called the sports medicine approach. And you might be asking me, well, what is a sports medicine approach? We see it every weekend. Watch your favorite college or pro sports team. When an athlete gets hurt, there's a team of people running out on the field. They're kind of triaging that injury, right? They're out there running out there trying to figure out what happened to that athlete. If it's severe enough that athlete's going in a blue tent, you see that blue tent on the sidelines where there's an ortho waiting for him. At that point, they're trying to figure out even more in depth what's happening, right? It's that sports medicine approach. And what people don't realize is that these facilities now have X-ray and MRI machines in these facilities. That coach knows, is my athlete out for the series? Or is my athlete out for the game, right? It happens that fast in college and pro sports, right? And for us at Ready Rebound, we took that same sports medicine approach and we applied it to first responders. And what I mean by that, it's fire, police, public works, and now your entire city, right? Our goal is this: to find the right medical landing spot. And what I mean by this is that if you have a knee injury, let's get you in front of a knee specialist. If you have a back injury, let's get you in front of a back specialist, just like them colleges, pro sports athletes, what they experience, right? So, and then at that point, we're going to really just need to figure out what the pain is, right? A lot of the times we see a lot of delays in the front end. And what I mean by this is that, we need imaging. If imaging is required, we need either an MRI or X-ray to determine what the problem is, right? So we could really kind of clearly figure out, okay, are we going to PT? Are we going to surgery? It really happens that quick in college and pro sports. We want the same thing to happen for your men and women, right? And at that point, we can kind of determine a plan of action, right? Because if we're going to PT, we're going to be doing a lot of work hardening just to make sure we get that body part healed up a lot quicker, right? If we're going to surgery, we're going to need a different plan of action. And what I'm really excited about already is that we work with the best orthos and specialists in your area, right? We've already been working with your fire and police department. And so for us, we vet all our providers. They got to be sports fellowship trained, and they got to understand that sports medicine approach of injury recovery. That's kind of key. This is what it looks like. You get injured, or you call our hotline. It's access 24/7, 365. It's going to be answered by one of our licensed athletic trainers, our navigators. And what they're going to do is they're going to basically triage your call, and then they're going to care for you, right? Their goal is really, it's a hand-holding care navigation. And they're also going to keep some people like Mallory informed with their on-the-job injuries. Now, remember, everything's HIPAA compliant with off-duty injuries. And I want to be really clear with that, is that we don't share any of your information. Only the OJIs are on-the-job injuries, right? So that's kind of key. And this is I'm going to kind of walk through what our navigators do. This is Ashley. Ashley's one of your Pacific Northwest team navigators. She worked actually in college sports. I think she actually worked for Arizona State soccer team. And the goal here is that when you call the hotline, which is 800-781-2320, she's going to answer this call along with a couple of other teammates. They're going to triage that call. They're going to ask a specific number of questions like where you live. Was it an on-duty injury, off-duty injury? Really department-specific questions to determine the best plan of action, right? She's gathering that she's that person that was running out on the field, right? That's the same thing she's doing right there. And at that point, she's going to figure out from her question she asked you who the best ortho specialist is, right? Or sports medicine specialist is, right? She's going to connect those dots. She's going to reach out to that specialist, set up an appointment, reach back to you and say, hey, can you see Dr. Johnson at 1 o'clock? If the answer is yes, you're in our system. It's quite that simple and quite that fast, right? That's our goal. is to get you to see somebody specifically and immediately, right? And then she's going to follow up with you on a weekly basis, right? She's going to follow up with your PT appointment. She's going to follow up, if God forbid you need surgery, she's going to follow up with your surgery stuff, right? She's really going to just basically walk you through your entire healing journey just to make sure nothing gets lost throughout the process, right? Our navigators are kind of labeled as friendly stalkers because they follow up with you after every appointment, making sure your appointments are set, MRIs approved, right? All that fun stuff. And again, like I said, she's going to be keeping Mallory informed as well. Anyone else who has a hand in the work comp process, just make sure everybody's informed because there's a lot of delay in information. We want to make sure that delay is delayed. I really like this graphic because this kind of shows you what we're used to with the top graph, right? Me as a civilian, if I got hurt, I got to go to usually probably my primary care doctor, maybe an Octomate clinic or ER. They're going to maybe tell me take some aspirin, call back in a couple weeks. Couple weeks go by, it doesn't get any better. At some point, we might need some type of imaging, and I might be a month or two down the road just to determine what our plan of action is, right? At Ready Rebound, we wanted to keep it simple. You call our 800 number. It's answered 24/7, 365 by our athletic trainers, somebody like Ashley, right? And she's going to triage call like I said, right? Our goal is to get to here where we kind of can figure out what our plan of action is. And I would actually probably argue that we're probably going to do more work hardening on the back end and physical therapy to make sure you get back to work at 100%, right? So what does this mean? Depending on the severity of the injury, you're going to get back to your lives quicker. You're going to get back to your job sooner. And you're going to get back to the things you enjoy doing, on a daily basis, right? That's kind of our goal, right? We don't want you to stress or worry about your healing process. We just want you to get back to your lives as soon as possible. And really your on-duty protocol is really pretty simple. In the state of Washington, it's actually great. You get hurt, you fill out your first report of injury, maybe contact your supervisor, and you call our 800 number. It's quite that simple, right? Our goal is really in the state of Washington is get you in immediately. We know with L&I, we need to work through the L&I process, but we're finding that, with our relationships with L&I, we're able to expedite your care throughout your entire OGI process. And everything I talked about, that ease of access, that immediate access to top tier professionals in your area, and the true healthcare concierge service is also available to all your off-duty injuries, all your retirees, all admin staff, and all your family members at no additional cost. I want to emphasize this I really want to make sure you understand this. This does not cost you or your family anything. With off-duty injuries and family member injuries, we have to follow the insurance policy protocol, right? So if you got Blue Cross Blue Shield for your off-duty injuries, we got to follow that protocol, right? We can't change that. But when we get in the system, we move through that process, right? The crazy thing about this is that we're seeing around the country, so we're actually seeing 2-3 times more off-duty and family member injuries than we actually do OJIs, right? So people ask me sometimes, well, what defines a family member? I said, I asked back, well, what defines a family member for you? Is it your wife, your son, your daughter, your brother, your neighbor that's like your brother? They all have access. We just got to follow the protocols of insurance companies. However, they all have access, and we're never going to say no to anybody, right? And the same thing happens, right? 24/7, 365 access. And I like to share this slide because a lot of people ask me too, what do you cover? We cover most of musculoskeletal injuries, that's shoulders, backs, knees, hips, stuff like that, fractures, tears. We also, cover hernias and concussions as well, right? But I tell everybody, and I want to make sure you understand this too, if you're in doubt, call the 800 number. Our navigators are well-versed in injuries. They're well-versed in insurance. They're well-versed in L&I information as well. So they'll walk you through it. If we can help with a condition, we possibly can, we will, right? Our goal is always to help, right? But musculoskeletal injuries is really our wheelhouse. And I'll walk through a couple of these frequently asked questions as well. Some people ask me, I have a doctor. Is it part of your providers, right? I always say, please, if you have a doctor that you like, whether it's a PT, maybe a specialist, call our navigators and we'll vet them. We'll make sure that they adhere to, expedited care. But if they fit our criteria, we'll definitely make sure that they fit within our provider network, right? I already went through the family member piece, right? Whatever you define family member is what we define family member, right? One thing I get to is, can I use this for old injuries, pre-existing injuries, or second opinion? Yes, of course, right? You can come in and out of our system at any time you want, right? It's a voluntary program, right? We don't direct care. So You can come in and out wherever you want. You might have a really great PT person, but you might need us for appointments, right? Call us. You might have a great surgeon, but might need us for PT. Call us, right? We find though, if you use us from the beginning to the end, you're really going to get the best outcome. Another one we get too is, right, do you work with TRICARE for vets, or do you work with a lockdown HMO? I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. When we work with like a Kaiser lockdown HMO or TRICARE, sometimes we're limited on what we can do, right? We can't expedite as quickly as we possibly want to. However, we're still going to help. It's still going to be faster than your traditional method, but it might just be a little slower than we're used to, right? Can I use my spouse's insurance? Of course. We came into Tumwater a while ago. You know, we already researched the insurance companies in your area, right? And we wanted to make sure that your providers fit within our program as well. And the last thing, you know, I can't emphasize it more enough is that we're always HIPAA compliant. I want you to understand that we don't share your personal information for off-duty injuries or family member injuries with your department or with your city. We always, you know, want to be HIPAA compliant and comply to the laws of the state of Washington and the country. And for this, if you don't have our number, please scan, if you have your phone, scan this QR code now. And what this is going to do is this is going to put our number in your telephone. So then that way you have easy access to it. And I'm going to be sharing some flyers as well with Mallory that hopefully she could share with you, right? I got, you know, public works specific flyers I'm going to share that I'll send over to her. And feel free to call this 800 numbers at any time. And like I said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our navigators. It's 800 number. However, too, feel free to reach out to Mallory, and Mallory can get in touch with me. I want you to know that you have access to me as well, because I want to make sure you're comfortable with what you're doing, you're comfortable with what we're doing, and then you understand everything in the process as well. I'm going to stop here and leave the floor open for any questions that anybody might have.
You guys have questions?
No.
Think anybody else would have questions?
It's pretty straightforward. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Would be very helpful considering what we go through today. So. Absolutely.
Excellent.
We have the slideshows, we can print it out and throw it on our, in our lunchroom.
I have posters I put up for you guys because I got a couple of toolkits from Marcus. There's one by the vending machine. There's